welcome everybody to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, your host as always, Andrew O'Hara, and I am once again riding solo this week, but I swear that was not the original intention. Sometimes scheduling is just fun, and I feel like I've complained about this far too many times, but this time is different because we legit had a podcast. So Rob Alexander, who's the principal product manager for Matter at Silicon Labs, who also works with the CSA and oversees like their testing and oversight and like all this kind of stuff, he was set to join me, and we were going to talk about this new Matter certification program and stuff like that. I was very hyped on it. And unfortunately, Rob was traveling for like this giant like works with event get-together convention that Silicon Labs does, and unfortunately we had too many issues. We were literally like halfway through the podcast. At one point the internet went out at his office that he was in, so we had a number of issues that unfortunately left us to scuttle the podcast until next week. So hopefully Rob and I can get together sometime this week to bring you the actual episode we wanted to bring you this time right now. So we couldn't do it. So I'm hopeful I'll get that to you guys on the next one. Some really cool stuff happening with Matter. Very excited about Matter 1.5, which is hopefully coming very soon. Yeah, you guys know I'm going to ask Rob about it. So we're going to come back to that at some point, but in the meantime, I still got a beast of a show for you guys. It has been a fun week, another week. I've been really testing out Apple's new devices, which isn't smart home related, but I got to tell you, like, I am still freaking loving this iPhone Air. I know Dan and I talked about this quite a bit. I did a whole other video kind of comparing this to the Pro, and the Air is just too good. One of the biggest takeaways, I know a lot of people talk about the cameras and how much like they would miss the ultra wide and telephoto lenses, and I'm like, yeah, me too. I use them all the time. And I'm like, wait a minute, how much do I actually do that? And I started going down this rabbit hole of looking through my photos over the past like weeks and months to see how many I actually shot with both the telephoto lens and the ultra wide lens. And I did more digging and eventually found out a way that you can create these smart albums that are based on photo metadata, including which of the lenses you are using. You can actually go in and specify like the 16 Pro rear camera and which one of those, all this kind of stuff. It was really cool. So I ended up making these really complex smart albums to automatically sort all of the telephoto and ultra wide shots that I've taken over the past 2 years. In the past 2 years, I have taken over, I think it's like 40,000 photos. 40,000. And of those, there was, I think, about 600 that were telephoto or ultra wide, and it ended up being about 1.5% of my photos were telephoto and ultra wide, and the other 98.5% were all taken with the primary camera lens. So if that tells you anything, as someone who is literally a photographer, videographer, I do this all the time. I shoot so much photo and video, and I was at 1.5%. It was a little eye-opening, even to me. Like, I pretend like I'm using those things all the time, and it's like, wow, a lot less than I thought I would. And a bunch of those telephoto shots were literally just from Apple events, like taking peeks of like Tim Cook on stage and WWDC and stuff. So it's not like they were even regular shots out in the real world. They were like specific work shots while I was at an event. So I feel like I even use it less than that 1.5%, but I don't know. I'm still torn on it. I'm still playing with them both. I'm obviously going to keep both in the studio. I'm not your average user, so I'm going to have both of them. But yeah, so just a little more background on those things. Now, before we get into a couple of the big things, we're going to have like roundups of the Google event as well as the Amazon event. We have a bunch of little news items to get through, and a lot of these, frankly, are not good this week. Like, there's been a kind of a downtick in positivity and news. So let's start off with Blink cameras, which I do have a couple of Blink cameras. This was a big conversation. Jen Tui and I, like, I'm using those Blink cameras in the back in the chicken coop to help keep guard against the raccoons and other stuff that is trying to eat our chickens. And it was, I believe, like last Friday now, where cameras just went offline. Like people could get into the app and they could not access their cameras. And people were getting like a 503 error or a 504 error, I believe, when trying to sign into the app or look at the app, and just unable to pull up camera feeds. And to me, it goes back towards like that whole thing of HomeKit and having local storage, local streaming. Like with a HomeKit camera, you can have your internet go down, whatever. Like there's no reliance on the server. Sure, for cloud recording, but for like local streaming and stuff, you don't even have to have internet. You can have just that local stuff running and be able to do that. So I really do appreciate that. And it just keeps reminding me, the more of these little stories that come out about problems like that. I couldn't imagine something happening and like your camera feeds are just offline because Amazon is screwing up at that particular moment. So that was in the news this week. And yes, there is a fix out now at this point, so shouldn't be a problem. Next up, Tile. I talked with Rob Alexander, who was supposed to be on the podcast, was literally just like me, one of the initial backers of Tile. I remember my job at that point. I remember sitting in my chair when like that Kickstarter went live and backing them. I don't know what made me so gravitate towards them at that point in time, but I did. I was one of the original backers, and I was not in love when they got purchased by Life360. There's a whole bunch of like privacy things there. I actually know a few friends in the smart home space that really like Life360, and they like to use it for their family and things like that. But for whatever reason, it skeeved me out a little bit, and I really didn't like how they were doing that. And then at the same time, Tile was also really pushing back against Apple and Find My. Obviously, they're going to be protective about their own ecosystem, right? That's their livelihood, keeping you in the Tile app and things like that. But they just did not want to work with the Find My because they did not want to kind of cede control in many ways to Apple. But at the same time, this is what happens. A group of researchers at Georgia Institute of Technology found that the MAC addresses of the Tile were being broadcast alongside their unique IDs. The result is that stalkers and Tile both would be able to get your location if they wanted to. And this comes like with Life360 Tile saying that they cannot do that. So here's a few of the snippets of the article from Wired. So they say the location of a tag, its MAC address, and the unique ID also get sent unencrypted to Tile servers, where the researchers believe this information is stored in clear text, giving Tile the ability to track the location of tags and their owners, even though the company claimed it does not have that capability. An attacker only needs to record one message from the device to fingerprint it for the rest of its lifetime. On top of that, they say this cannot even easily be mitigated by hiding the MAC address, because as long as they got it one time, they're good for that lifespan of that Tile. So when this gets worse too, by the way. So there's also like an anti-stalking feature for Tile, similar to what Apple and Google have for like the Google Find Hub and the Apple Find My. They are able to apparently disable it on Tile, and I'm sorry because I don't remember that, because that's a newer feature and I have not used Tile in some time. But apparently you can actually put a Tile into anti-theft mode. So that's kind of like taking an AirTag and putting it into anti-theft mode and using it to prevent something from being stolen, like a bike or a car, something like that. And then when that happens, they don't get notified that they're being followed by the tracker, right? Because it makes sense when you're trying to catch a thief, but there's obviously implications there. So again, going back to the article, when a tag owner enables anti-theft to make their tag invisible to would-be thieves, those tags also won't be visible to someone running a scan to determine if they are being stalked with a rogue tag. This means a stalker could hide their stalking tag by putting it into anti-theft mode. I don't know. That seems like a very obvious thing that did not need a group of researchers to tell them. That just seems like kind of common sense Like, you just put in the ability to disable the security feature. Yeah, no wonder Google and Apple don't have that on their respective platforms for that stuff. So, I just hate to see where Tile has kind of ended up after I was so excited about them with their initial launches. My wife has this story that she has told. She may have even told you all on the podcast at some point, but like way back when we were dating and I had her put a Tile on her keys, and she lost her keys one day. She was leaving to go to work and she could not find her keys. So she got out her phone, opens the Tile app, and she makes her keys ring. And she's like walking around the house, walking outside, and eventually she hears her keys. Turns out she kept following that noise. They were in the woods. Yeah, she says she must have like been carrying things inside and went to throw something into the woods, like a leaf or something, and inadvertently threw her keys at the same time and had no clue. So she just tossed her keys unknowingly into the woods. She would have never found them, but she had a Tile on there and she found them. And of course, now she uses an AirTag, but yeah, I have a lot of like love for early Tile, and to see how they can just be used to stalk and how their location can be found so easily, and it cannot easily be patched according to these researchers, is a massive bummer. So I think I assume that's why a lot of people like Apple's Find My for its security and encryptedness and just the anti-stalking features and everything else. And yeah, it still seems like we could be getting AirTag 2 very soon. It is one of a number of new devices that are expected to be launching sometime here in October. Now, we're already on the 6th, so it's already week 2 of October. I don't think Apple will do an event, especially for like the kind of hodgepodge items that we're going to see, like a new version of Vision Pro with the M5 chip, new M5 iPad Pros that again won't have really any changes except for the M5 chip and possibly a second front-facing camera. We also may get like the AirTag 2, as I said. There's a HomePod Mini that's still in the mix, and then possibly an M5 14-inch MacBook Pro, like entry level, not the M5 Pro or M5 Max, like those versions, but just the entry level. You know how there's always that basic one, and then there's like the higher end units. That's what we're talking about here. So no changes again, just that updated chip on the inside. So I don't think Apple's going to do an event for these types of devices. I think they'll all probably just trickle out, maybe a parade of press releases. We'll see. We'll talk about the smart home related one. Oh, and Apple TV. How did I miss my favorite one from the list? So that's also in the cards. But yeah, if HomePod, Apple TV, AirTag, any of that stuff comes out, we'll talk about it on the next episode. Next up in the list, Ecobee. Ecobee has seemingly now rolled back that new feature we talked about a few weeks ago, right? This was the ability to arm and disarm like the security system through the Home app. You could kind of like use a combination of your door sensors, your camera, your Ecobee thermostat, together your doorbell as a security system. Right? The same thing that you would any other security system, and you would arm and disarm it, and it could even be monitored, all of that. But you could do the arming and disarming now through Apple Home, through the Home app. You could create automations to change the modes, all of that stuff, which is really cool. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, they just updated their help document on it, saying that they removed this feature. They cite unexpected challenges as the reason for this. And right now, they have not given any other statement on the matter, and they have not said whether or not this is a permanent rollback or just temporary. So we'll see. I've reached out to Ecobee, and if I hear back, I will let you guys know in the next episode, but hopefully we know something soon, because I think that was a really cool feature that they were able to offer, and not many others have something like that. Next up on the list is Meta. Everyone has been clamoring this week about the new Meta glasses with the display inside. Like, they've been sold out everywhere. And frankly, that does not surprise me, because the original Meta Ray-Ban glasses were really, really popular. I will say, I have them. I really, really like them. I don't love the Meta Assistant, the Meta AI abilities, but they're not that expensive. Like, they're pretty affordable, especially for a set of Ray-Bans. The glasses themselves are good, comfortable. The case is really nice. I love the battery life and how they work. The cameras in them are super, super handy. Like, I love being able to see my kid and then take a picture just really easily without having to pull out my phone. And they're great for listening to music. You don't have to fill your ears with even AirPods and turn on transparency mode. It's just very natural to have a conversation or just listen to music with your sunglasses on. So I'm a huge fan of these types of glasses. And yeah, the new ones seem pretty cool with the built-in display. But at the same time, it kind of overshadowed this other news where Meta announced that its AI voice and text chats were now going to be used for advertising. And on top of that, you can't opt out. It's just going to force this upon you. And I don't love that. And don't worry, Meta says sensitive topics won't be used. And I have many questions on what encompasses a sensitive topic and how they're going to determine those things. And I really dislike a lot of that statement. I already don't use the Meta AI on my Ray-Bans. I probably definitely won't now with this change in effect, but I don't know. I mean, Meta is obviously trying to do a lot more here, and they're doing a lot more with AI. And I already feel like Meta, Facebook, Insta has far too much information on us. The last thing that I want is just it listening in the background and collecting chat and text logs and using those to sell you ads and devices and your personal information and much more. And I think a lot of people know this, especially in the smart home speaker space. It's not just like being able to use it for a simple ad, right? Because they try to make it seem like that. It's like, oh, just let us have your chat logs and listen in on the background, and then your ads are going to be more relevant to you. That way you're seeing like ads that you like versus weird ones that don't make sense. And in some way, like, oh, sure, that kind of makes sense. But then when they're able to take that information about you and then sell it, and then they start to extrapolate and learn about you, and they start to learn a whole bunch of really scary things. Like, there's the stories out there of people finding out they were pregnant before they even knew they were pregnant. Like, they were getting ads for diapers or something in the mail before they even knew they were pregnant because like their search information had been sold, and they were able to combine that with other information they had from them, and they were able to make the leap that person, based on their searches and stuff, was pregnant before the person had even taken a pregnancy test. And that starts to get real creepy. So like the amount of information they're able to get and combine together just paints a very vivid picture of individuals. And yeah, I don't want to give Meta any more information than I probably already do, and I don't use Facebook. So yeah, I don't know. I don't love the can't opt out thing. That just even makes it even creepier. Okay, I'm done talking about fairly negative things. Let's go ahead and turn the positivity back up and talk about some cool things, some other fun things that are happening this week. So starting off with SmartThings. So the Samsung SmartThings, really big update here. They are one of the first to offer Thread two-way unification. What this means is that you're able to combine the Thread networks in your home. Now, in early parts of Thread and Matter, when you're having a Thread network spun up on like your Apple Home side as well as your Google Home side and your like Samsung SmartThings side, they would all be different Thread networks. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but you're obviously going to get a much better Thread network when they're all just like the same network, right? Like, think of it's not quite the same as Wi-Fi, but like, why run 3 different Wi-Fi networks when you could run one? But the benefit here with Thread is that you're able to make a much more robust network because you can use all those different devices as nodes and routers to extend and strengthen that network. So if there's ever congestion or something goes offline, it's able to, again, self-heal. It's going to self-heal that mesh network and continue to have your stuff operate as it should and as fast as possible. So this is really cool. Glad they were able to pull this off. So the Samsung SmartThings is able to join your existing Thread networks or vice versa. So this is great, especially for homes that are running multiple ecosystems, which I do. I do have like this a few of the SmartThings. I have like the SmartThings hub Not to mention, like, all of the other smart things that exist in this house, from my washer and dryer to the fridge to the TV, that all run technically smart things, even if like my regular like lights and switches and all that stuff is not under smart things. But it's still running around in this house, so it's pretty cool that you can combine those networks together. Let's talk about Function. I am still so gung-ho on Function after months of doing my initial testing. See, both Faith and I, even our son, like, it just seems like it's always a hassle to try to get anything medical done. Just getting appointments with doctors seems to take months for us right now. Like, it is October, and Faith is trying to get into a doctor that they are booking into like February, really, for kind of just basic things. So for me, I want to know, I don't even want to take supplements without knowing, like, is this a good idea? Is it useful? Am I just throwing all this money away on these supplements that I don't even need? What does my body actually need? What would actually help me feel and perform better? Well, with Function, you can find all of that out. It is so easy to do. You sign up, you take your initial blood test, which I got booked within a day. Like, literally, I signed up, scheduled, and I was there the next morning getting my blood drawn. I went through, did my initial blood work, and within a day or two, I started having results show up inside of the Function Health app. And from there, I could see my results in like plain English. I could see my values, I could see what was high, what was low, what was normal, and then it gave me like an actual description of what this meant, so I knew if it was important or not. Like, I love that it wasn't like when I get things in my chart, it would be like, your Sherbaduber is at 9, and that's a number, and that's like all you know. Function Health gives you those results and then tells you in plain English what that means for you, your body, and everything else. I love that. On top of that, once you are done, you get an actual doctor to break down everything in your results and can give you like actual tangible things that you can do to make yourself better, healthier, feel better, sleep better, all of that. I found a bunch of little deficiencies that I had that I was able to correct with literally just a multivitamin. And Function isn't trying to sell you multivitamins. It's not one of those programs where you take a result and they're here, you have some problems and we can definitely sell you the fixes to those. No, Function just wants to sell you knowledge so you understand yourself better and can feel better. So like, I got all these things and I could take them and then do what I wanted, whether it is going and seeing follow up with my doctor and getting something corrected at a medical level, or whether it was basic things that I could fix with just over-the-counter supplements. And I've done that, and honestly, I do feel better. Whether or not it's a placebo, I don't know, but I legit feel better. And Function is really cool because you can do additional tests over time to see how your body's actually changing and reacting to the change that you have made in your lifestyle, in your supplements, whatever it happens to be. So you can see how you are improving and feel better. And it can even give you like your age, like your body's age in relation to your actual age, which is also kind of cool. There's so many things that I like about it. My friend, she just signed up for it the other day, and I'm really excited for her to get her results back and see what she thinks too. If you want to try it, do it. I love it. There's a reason that I picked it up, that I wanted to try it. So learn more using my link. It's down in the description. Function is a near 360 view to see what's happening in your body. And my first 1,000 listeners get a $100 credit towards the membership. Visit www.functionhealth.com/homekit or use gift code HOMEKIT100 at sign up to own your health. We should also thank Shopify, right? Another week has gone by and I bought something. You guys know I try not to buy a lot of things, other than like new iPhones and smart home gadgets. But besides those things, I don't buy a whole lot. But I was going, they kept sending me new ads for these new Allbirds, and they looked really cool. They were green, like high tops, and I'm like, these are perfect, and they're like water resistant. I'm like, this is fall in Ohio, and I love them. So I bought them, and of course I'm going through such an easy checkout process. Like, even the marketing is good, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm like in the checkout, kicks me through, really easy to pay. Use Apple Pay with Google Pay, Shop Pay, other ones as options. Then it gets kicked over to the Shop app and the Wallet app. It's just such a breeze, so easy to do. There is a reason that I love it so much, and so many others do too, whether they are actual customers using a Shopify experience or whether it is the businesses themselves. You've heard me talk about it before, how easy it is for Shopify to scale. You can start off as a small little individual operation and have a website and a theme up in an afternoon and already selling. As you grow, you can start selling where your customers actually are, whether it is in person at a physical store or a market, or it is online. You can manage inventory across all of those different locations, do ship to store, all of that. Shopify just handles so many things for you that you don't need to worry about while you're trying to run a business, like where the taxes are applied and how much shipping costs are going to be and what countries you ship to. Like all of that, it can handle for you and just make it easy and streamlined. I mean, I love how customers can get access to like coupon codes and gift cards and all that stuff. I know some shops that didn't have that for ages. So like just more benefits of using Shopify as the platform. It's something that you can get into and grow with. There's a reason that companies big and small rely on Shopify. It makes things easy. It helps convert customers from just, watchers into actual buyers. So if you haven't already, give Shopify a try. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/HomeKit. Go to shopify.com/HomeKit. Shopify.com/HomeKit. Next up, Emma Roth at The Verge had a really cool walkthrough about her experience with the Tele TV. And I find these things fascinating. I kind of want one in many ways, but it wouldn't work for me. So if you guys don't remember, Tele is that television that's free, right? You get the television, you don't pay for it at all, but you get a bunch of ads. And they do it in a kind of a different way, where you have the television, then you have a sound bar underneath it, and then you have this narrow ultra wide screen. So it's like as wide as the TV, but it's very short. And it is an always on screen that is just giving you information and ads. I encourage you to read the whole thing. It is linked in the show notes because I think it is fascinating. But it just goes to the idea of like, okay, what are you willing to sell about yourself? And I probably sound hypocritical to some, where I just rage against Meta for selling information about myself while offering to have a TV for free by selling the information to myself. But I promise it's not quite, that bad. It's really just looking at your TV watching and all of that, which is already happening through basically all of the apps that you're using as is. Now, to be a little fair, Apple does have that option where an Hulu or something pops up and you can choose to tell it to not track you. So that is a possibility here, like with Apple TV specifically. But with this one, you're not going to have that option. But I don't think that it's as bad. It's more just like the TV itself isn't great. I mean, it's still only a $500 TV. So if you don't return it when you're done, or when you're just finished with it, whatever, if you don't return it to them, it's $500, which is not that much. Like, honestly, I'm probably going to buy a nicer TV in general. Like, it is a backlit Android-based TV with a soundbar and a display with ads. So even if you're counting in like that soundbar and the secondary screen, the TV itself is probably even cheaper. Based on Emma's reporting, it sounds like it's just an okay middle of the road television. So I'm probably already going to be disappointed by that. But the idea of that screen on the bottom actually sounds kind of interesting. It'd be really neat to kind of see just like that extra information with what you're watching. So like for some things like sports, it could be really cool. But then other times, like it's going to be really annoying when you're watching a movie and there's a whole second screen on at the same time. I guess it'll show like a bunch of like customized widgets also on there. But then on the far right hand side, there's just a perpetual ad that is refreshing constantly. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. I obviously don't love the ads and selling personal information stuff, but also like the secondary screen seems really cool. And I think the idea of like, I've seen some like the widgets and the weather and things like that. I'm like, those things would be cool. I've actually talked about how I would love to see widgets arrive on like tvOS, because I think that would be really beneficial to have some of that stuff show up on there, like pooled from, iOS and iPadOS and come to the television. Like there's no reason some of those things could not overlap a little bit more. And it seems like they do that with the Tele, just for the cost of your personal information. So yeah, Emma generally decides at the end that TVs are probably worth paying for, and I generally agree with that sentiment. I just find these really fascinating. The big kind of extra catch with them is that it's supposed to be your primary TV. So they want you to put this specifically in like your living room or wherever you're going to listen or watch TV the most. And they even monitor that usage. And if you're not using it enough, they're going to yell at you and ask for it back. That said, Emma did go on like vacation for like 2 weeks during her testing, and they didn't say a thing about it. So like she had it literally unplugged, and they didn't get mad at her. So maybe they're pretty lenient about that. I don't know if anyone ever tries one of these things. Let me know, because I'm curious at what someone else's experience is. It would still never work for me, but I just find it kind of interesting. Let's move on and talk about the two big events that happened last week. We had the Amazon event and the Google event, and these had so many announcements, and it's already been a bit of time, so we're going to see what I can remember based on my show notes here. So let's go ahead and talk about it, starting off with Amazon. Now, the Amazon event, oh man, there's a lot here. So lots of Echo devices, right? We have the Echo Dot Max, that's $100. There's the Echo Studio at $220. For the displays, there's the Echo Show 8, $180, and the Echo Show 11, $220. So among the Echo devices, there is no new Echo Dot, like regular cheapo Echo Dot, which I find interesting. Like their first new model is sitting at $100, putting it squarely at the same like level of HomePod Mini. That to me is like a big deal, and especially when we get to Google, come on. So Apple seemingly hit a really good price point here with HomePod Mini. We've talked so much about whether Apple is kind of behind when it comes to the smart home stuff. Dan and I had this big discussion, and looking at what Amazon and Google are doing, I do not feel like they're nearly as far behind as people think that they are, or at least people in the tech space seem to think they are. Like, a lot of tech YouTubers going to go on to Twitter and complain how far Apple is behind based on some random apps they've downloaded or something. But yeah, these all look really cool. They've done some really nice stuff with speakers, with audio quality. So much of this has been boosted over the prior generations because it has been years since much of these have been updated. I really like the look of the shows, the Show 8 and the Show 11. Really thin display on the front. It looks just kind of like, like an iPad sitting up there with a circular speaker behind it. And I believe they even adjust up and down a little bit to like tilt the screens. But they look really cool. And obviously these are all meant to be like the center of the Amazon smart home. Most of this stuff is going to work with like the Alexa Plus, and I said the the forbidden name on the show, but it'll work with the Amazon Assistant Plus. That is a paid option that is still rolling out to users. There are new Fire TVs, like the actual dedicated television set that run the Fire operating system or whatever. Then we have new Fire Sticks. There's actually a Fire Stick 4K. Well, I guess technically it's called the Fire Stick 4K Select, and that is only $40. It's actually run by a new operating system called Vega, and yeah, I mean, you guys know how we feel generally about the Amazon Fire operating system, or in this case, the Vega operating system, usually Android-based, lots of ads, things like that. But then we have the new cameras in the Ring lineup, right? We're getting more smart homey here. There's new Retinal line, which they actually say is like using their fancy new sensors on the cameras to not just give you like higher resolution, but really increase the quality of them. I believe they actually learn over time, like they keep sampling footage from these cameras and then try to improve it for you over a period of time. So there's the Retinal 2K cameras. There's the Ring Wired Doorbell Plus, $180, and the Indoor Cam Plus, $60. They have the Retinal 4K lineup as well, which would include the Wired Doorbell Pro, $250. There's the Outdoor Cam Pro, $200. The Spotlight Cam Pro, $250. Floodlight Cam Pro for $280. And some of these will have PoE versions available. One of the new features on them is going to be familiar faces, and it'll be able to tell you who is at your door. something Google and Apple already do. I love how Apple does that with its cameras. I just saw this happening with Harrison, but it's able to look at your photo library, and then if you give it access, and then it's able to use that to know people's names. So when it sees someone show up, if you have photos of them on like your iPhone and you've given them names into like that people album, it'll be able to tell you that's who is at your door. So like it can say, hey, Faith is there, Naomi's there, whoever it happens to be, it'll be able to recognize their faces and tell you in more plain English who that person is. So a really cool way to give you that personalization locally. Now Amazon and Ring are doing something a little bit similar, though not quite as local or secure as Apple may be doing it. Yeah, those are the new cameras. So a lot of upgrades there, especially in the resolution. Finally, wrapping it up from Amazon, they have the new Blink Mini cameras. There's the Blink Mini 2K, which is $50, and the Blink Outdoor 2K for $90. Biggest upgrade here for Blink cameras, still quite affordable, frankly. I mean, a 2K version for $90 is great, but it's that resolution jump. That's the big thing. I also like this new thing called the Blink Arc. This is a $100 accessory, and essentially you put two Blink cameras into it, and it uses a bunch of fancy software to stitch them together to give you a 180-degree field of view. So you could put this on like the side of your driveway, the front of your house, and get a complete encompassing view in one video feed. So as like a person moves, it goes all the way across, and I think it looks really, really cool. So I like that, even though it's a little pricey at $100. Wrapping this up, let's talk about Google. Google, I was more interested in. Like Amazon had a lot of things, a ton of cameras, a ton of speakers. Google was a little bit more focused, and some of their AI capabilities had me a little bit more excited. It was more specifically tailored to smart home instead of kind of like the brands, if that makes sense, I guess. Starting with the speakers themselves. They're new smart speakers, of course. Google has gotten rid of the Nest name for its smart speakers. They come in this new soft gray, dark gray, this sage green color, and a very vibrant poppy red. Jen Tui at The Verge, she has some hands-on with these, and they look pretty cool. I like the colors a lot. Like I am a big fan of like that sage green color, and also something a little bit more vibrant. I would 100% be down for Apple to do some of these. And it's kind of funny because they look literally like a squashed HomePod Mini. And literally, they're also all covered in this 3D mesh fabric, like acoustic fabric. Once again, I feel like Apple really pushed that with the HomePod, the original HomePod when they did it. And now it seems like everybody is doing that. They are replacing Google Assistant with Gemini, and there's also a paid version called Gemini Live that doesn't seem quite worth it yet, but we'll get to it. And yeah, these speakers are $99. Like, come on, we have the Dot Max or whatever it is from Amazon for $100. We got the HomePod Mini sitting in there, and now we have these new squashed Google Gemini ones that are $99 as well. So apparently that's going to be like the sweet price point here, especially when we're baking in AI abilities, and so much of this is what we're expecting to see with what Apple is going to be doing. Now, these do act as the Google Home Hub. They are Matter controllers and Thread border router, so all of that stuff is great, what we want to see. Now, in the demo, Jen did not get to do too much, because I guess these speakers are voice matched. They support up to 6 people in a home plus guests. You can use things like when it comes to talking with regular Gemini, you can have more general thoughts or commands, and you don't have to be as pointed, which I do like. You don't have to say, set the temperature in the living room to this, right? You can now just say, can you make it warmer in here? Which I feel like is a much more natural thought or phrase to say. So I do like that a whole lot. You can also say like things like turn off all the lights except for those in the bedroom. I find that also really helpful. Again, just kind of normal phrases you would say. Like it's getting easier to say what you want instead of having to think what you want, then converting it into a phrase that a smart speaker would understand. So I think that is going a long way to making these things a little bit more usable, too many times Faith trying to talk to the speaker and she just tries to say what she wants to say, and the speaker has no idea how to actually pull that off. You're also able to string commands together, which, thank God. And Apple needs to do this in the next version of the HomePod. I swear it. This is the most basic thing. I am so tired of saying a command like Apple Assistant, open the shades. Wait for that to complete. Then Apple Assistant, turn on the living room lights. Wait for that to complete. Then finally, Apple Assistant, unlock the back door. Whatever the third thing is. But you have to literally keep waiting between each command. So with this, you could say, Gemini, unlock the front door, open the shades to 50%, and turn on the lights, and then turn on the Apple TV. And it would do all of those things. It would understand and parse each of them individually and carry out all those commands seemingly without issue. That is the dream. It is such a simple thing to me, and we're at least getting it on the Google side, and I hope that Apple does this on the updated HomePod and HomePod Mini. Now, the last thing, you don't have to specify room names as much anymore. I don't know how they're all pulling that off, but that would be nice. The big thing here with Gemini Live, so this is the paid version, that just seems like a chatbot. Like, it literally just seems like they're taking ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, and putting it into verbal commands. So you don't have to repeat the wake word, and you can just have a conversation with Gemini, and you can like interrupt it as it's talking, but that's about it. And what's weird is there seems to be a lot of like limitations with it. Like you can't add things to like lists, or you can't see like the results on other devices. It just seems to be like a chat window between you and your speaker. And right now I don't feel like that is probably worth it. And I'm really curious at what point Apple decides it's going to start charging for things, because we have both Amazon and Google charging for like their higher end versions of their AI features. At what point is Apple going to start charging for Apple Intelligence? Of course, it needs to deliver any of Apple Intelligence, like some of the big features, before it can start charging. But it does kind of have me keep thinking that in the back of my mind. We did see, with the launch of the new 17 series and the Air, Apple delayed charging for like the emergency SOS satellite capabilities. Apple had said like you get 2 years for free when you buy your phone. Now Apple extended that for another year until next September of 2026. So like that too, it seemed like a feature Apple's going to start charging for, and I imagine Apple may want to start charging for Apple Intelligence at some point when those features build out a bit more. But it's going to be really cool if Apple doesn't charge for Apple Intelligence while both Amazon and Google are charging for their AI features. We'll just have to see what Apple's able to deliver when we finally get what it's planning to deliver, maybe by the spring. On top of the smart speakers, Google has some cameras. So these do have Gemini integration. There's outdoor wired 2nd gen, indoor wired 3rd gen, and wired doorbell 3rd gen. These two, I think, are still actually keeping the Nest branding for these, but they're all Nest cameras. 3 new versions, a little more cleanup. But they also have that Gemini integration to tell you what they're seeing. And this is another thing that Apple needs to do. Like, this is the top priorities for what Apple needs to do on smart home stuff. So what this could do is, like, I could see if the camera is outside, it would tell me that Harrison is driving his RC car. Or it could say Faith is plowing snow in the driveway. Or whatever it happens to be, it's able to see that motion, then relay it to me in plain English, instead of motion is detected on the front. Like, that tells you nothing. And even going as far as saying someone who is likely Faith is on the front porch is still very narrow. So I really want to have just more of a plain English version of what is happening. Like, it would be cool to say a UPS driver dropped off 2 packages. Because it would know, it could either see UPS on the uniform or the brown color. It could see boxes, know how many boxes, all of these things, then just give you that information as an AI description versus motion, maybe package detected. Like, just the vague things like that, which is what we have now. And also, these cameras all boast enhanced 2K HDR video. But yeah, I think Google has me more sold with these AI capabilities of both the speakers and the cameras, and they're things that I would very much like to see on the Apple front. So that is it. I feel like this was a big episode with a lot of news happening, and I hope that it was a little more upbeat for that second half, talking about Amazon and Google and the possibilities of what Apple could be introducing just this month, if not by the spring. Let me know if you're going to be buying any of the new Google or Amazon stuff, or if you're holding out for those HomePods. You can let me know on the video version of this over at youtube.com/HomeKitInsider. You can also let me know on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. You can shoot me off an email at Andrew@AppleInsider.com. Or any other social network, because I'm probably on those too. Please give the podcast a 5, 10, 100 star on your podcast player of choice, and I'll see you all in the next episode.